All right, coaches, what's up? So here's one of the main topics that I know we might struggle with going forward in classes, and we haven't really dove into this much in any of our meetings, and that is scaling movements. So expect in every class there are going to be multiple people that need movement scaled for various reasons. So the first thing we need to understand is, why do we need to scale it? Does someone need to scale because of an injury? Or do they need to scale because of an ability, as in they don't possess enough strength or flexibility to do it, right? They're not injured, they're fine, but they just can't do the movement. Or is it a skill limitation? They don't quite possess that skill yet. And I know ability and skill are close, but those will change depending, or when you scale the movement, that will kind of determine how we're going to scale it. So they're going to change a little bit. So guys, let's talk about injury. If we need to scale for injury, there's a couple ways we need to address this. First, we're going to likely have to change the movement pattern. So say it's a overhead press and their shoulder hurts. Well, we can't continue to overhead press. Say it's something in their low back when they hinge forward. Well, you can't continue to hinge forward. So expect to change the movement pattern, but we want to keep similar muscle groups. So say I'm pressing overhead and it's a shoulder related thing. Can we still do something that includes the shoulder? Can we press forward? Can we upright row? Is there something else that still uses the shoulder? I wouldn't want to change a overhead press to a Russian kettlebell swing. There's almost no shoulder involved in that, okay? So you will have to change the movement pattern, but try to keep the muscle group similar. Say for example, a deadlift. I can't deadlift because it hurts my back. Well, what does the deadlift use a lot of? Hamstrings and glutes. What else uses hamstrings and glutes? Anything single leg. Doing weighted step-ups, weighted lunges, okay? Those are gonna be both good options. Or we could even potentially back squat, okay? So it still uses those same muscles. It's at least a lower body strength exercise. So that would work. Now, we wouldn't want to change a deadlift into a bench press in most cases. Now, maybe if things are pretty extreme, we might have to, but we'll get into that in a moment. So if you can't keep if you can't keep with the same muscle groups, we at least want to keep the stimulus the same. So that's what I was referring to in the bench press versus the deadlift. So what this looks like is the initial movement presented a cardio piece? If so, keep it like that. So let's say it's burpees. What do burpees do? They get you out of breath. So we're not going to switch burpees into strict press, right? Completely different. We would switch burpees to, say they can't do it because they can't come onto the ground because it hurts their shoulder. Cool. Maybe we can just bike or row or run shuttles, or can they do an up down, or can they jump rope singles or squat jump? Something that keeps the stimulus the same. Is it a strength? So say everyone in class is deadlifting heavy for sets of 5 with rest in between. Well, if someone can't do anything lower body because it's just hurting, then yes, maybe we do still keep it strength, but we have to go upper body. Not ideal. We would obviously want to check in on those other lower body exercises first, but if it's a strength thing, keep it a strength thing for similar reps, okay? Don't substitute a 5 rep deadlift for a 10 rep push press. Too different. And then next thing, going on to what I just said, high rep is high rep. So if it's in a workout and someone's doing 30 kettlebell swings for the original workout and we can't do that, we want to keep it something that's high rep and cyclical, meaning they can do a lot of them fast. So maybe instead of that, I'm doing up downs or a short box jump or one of those plyo skiers, something that I can still do a lot of high reps fast and get the heart rate up. Cool? So there's a lot to think about when someone has to scale per injury. We want to try to keep it as similar as possible. Next thing, ability. So when does someone scale for ability? Let's say they're not strong enough to do a full push-up. They're not strong enough to do a full pull-up. They don't have the capacity to run 400 meters in the 2-minute window necessary. So their ability is just lacking. They're not injured. It's not a skill thing that they don't have figured out. They just don't possess the fitness. So at that rate, we're just gonna make it easier by keeping the movement the same and lessening the amount. They're not strong enough to do push-ups? Cool, make it easier. Put them on a box. They're not fast enough to run 400 meters in 2 minutes. Cool, have them run 300 meters. Whatever it is. The weight calls for, a 50-pound dumbbell. They're not strong enough to do that and get it done within the time domains. Cool, give them a 40-pound dumbbell. So this is probably the easiest one and the most common one to scale. A lot of members figure this out on their own, but it's still up to you to kind of know where does someone's ability lie. Because also sometimes members may not scale something, but you as a coach know they need to. So you see someone going into their Murph prep workout that can't do push-ups, but they don't have a box out. So you need to catch that and be like, hey, let's give you this box, so on and so forth. And then last one, this one's pretty common, scaling for skill. So skill movement, meaning they can't do double unders, they don't have the handstand push-up, they don't have the kipping pull-up, they don't have a muscle up. They don't possess the skill to do a good looking snatch, something like that. So first, is there a very similar movement that we can trade out for the original? So for example, they can't do a squat snatch just because they don't have that skill. Can they do a power snatch? Great. They can't do a muscle up because they haven't kind of tied it together yet, but can they do a ring transition into a jump press out? Cool. So we've kept the movement very similar. Now, in some cases, we don't need to worry about the skill. Like, it's too far out of reach for them to actually be able to do the skill. So for example, someone that can't do a pull-up at all, and we have muscle-ups in the workout, they don't need a muscle-up similar movement, okay? They need something different. So is the skill too out of reach? Do they need a different movement? So for example, handstand push-up, and they can't kick upside down. Cool, we don't need them upside down. Have them do a seated Z press. Double under. You've seen them try and fail, like no success whatsoever. Well, we don't need to have them do that in the workout. It's going to lead to nothing but failed attempt after failed attempt. So double under, plate hops is a good option. Like I said earlier, maybe they don't have the skill to do a muscle up, but they can do a pull up. Great. What else is a muscle up? It's a pulling movement, so we can have them do maybe a ring row or a banded pull up, something like that. So if they don't have the skill, first, is there a movement similar? And in most cases, there isn't. And then scaling it from there, is there a different movement, but it presents a similar characteristic as far as the movement pattern and the muscle groups. And guys, that's kind of the overarching theme here is similar movement, similar stimulus, similar muscle groups. We always want to get that as best as possible because ultimately we want them to get the original intention of the workout out of whatever we've scaled. So think about these things. Ask yourself before a workout, what are the common movements that may need to be scaled here? And it may not be something you think of like, oh, front squat, everyone can front squat. Maybe not. Maybe someone's gonna have to scale it. And then ask yourself, what are a couple different ways I could scale this? Because someone's probably gonna ask you in class. And if you have any trouble with that, let one of us other coaches know. We'll give you some guidance. Hope that helped. Thanks.